Welcome to a haunted episode of No Player Connected. Today we are discussing the 2006 point-and-click horror game Scratches with our ghoulish guest, KadenCactus. How are you doing today, Kaden?
I'm at my most ghoulish right now. I'm ready. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Life's good. Definitely not hopelessly addicted to RimWorld.
No, you're fine.
Thinking about the Rim. You know how it is. Always on that grind set.
On that Rim set.
Yeah, can I say that? Does that mean something bad?
Definitely yes.
Okay. We're here for a different game, though. We're here for Scratches.
Yeah!
And, I was living under a rock. I didn't know what Scratches was. And, hypothetically, I'm sure the people listening to this episode are more well-read and connected than I am. They probably know what Scratches is. But if they didn't, Kaden, can you tell the folks at home what is Scratches? What are Scratches? What's this game about? What's going on?
All right. Scratches. It's from 2006, like you said. Same year as Cars, the first film, so shout out. It's a first-person...
Clearly inspired.
Inspired by Cars, yes. It's a first-person point-and-click horror adventure game developed by Nucleosys, which was a three-person studio from Buenos Aires, Argentina. The music and ambient sounds, it's actually the first, I think, internationally commercial game produced by that country, which is cool.
Damn.
Fun fact. The music and ambient sounds were created by a one-person music project called Cellar of Rats, which is great.
That goes hard.
It's so
Holy
good. I don't think they do this type of work anymore, but I think this is their magnum opus, so it's fine. They can stop. We played the director's cut, which was released in 2007, so a year later, and it has just some updated graphics and an alternate ending and some gameplay updates. It's generally considered the definitive way to play the game. But you play as a Michael Arthate, a horror novelist looking for inspiration for his next book. He has been sent by his real estate agent, Jerry Carter, to an abandoned Victorian mansion in Rothbury, Northumberland, which is called Blackwood Manor. So your goal in the game, theoretically he's there to write his book, but he quickly gets derailed when he discovers that the house has some sinister secrets and a dark backstory that he just has to investigate. Turns out the house may not be as abandoned as you thought. Dun dun dun.
Theoretically, he's here to write a book. I am convinced if you put a gun to Michael's head and you were just write this fucking book right now, he'd be like, I have to investigate. He just cannot bring himself to actually... What, he writes one page on his typewriter over the course of the game, right?
Yep, he writes one measly little page. Technically, 1.5. But the second page that he writes is just I can't think of what to write. Are people gonna believe this? Are people gonna like this? Whatever.
Yeah. And so any noise he hears, or just when you first get to the manor, I thought I had looked around enough, and he was still the thought of exploring makes me too excited to type. It's come on, dude, please type. I'm begging you to type.
Even when he's done exploring, he's just well, guess I'm going to bed instead of doing anything else.
Yeah, well,
anything
6
but
p.m.
Go.
Man, getting pretty late. I can almost not see the entire sun on the horizon.
Yeah.
Better turn in.
I can't possibly write.
Yeah, he's handling a mystery in this manor. Is it a manor or a mansion? Because I think they say mansion, but this seems a little small, in my opinion.
I think it's officially called Blackwood Manor.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't know there was a difference between a manor and a mansion, to be honest.
I'm not going to get into all that. We'd be here all day. But the house is big, but not mind-bogglingly big. But then the property has its own chapel, mausoleum, greenhouse.
Yeah.
A strangely shitty garage.
Yeah, the garage sucks.
yeah, I don't know how this guy was managing his money, but needs to get it together. He was doing some renovations, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
We'll get into spoilers whenever.
I mean, do you want to get into spoilers now? Because, like, on the surface, you are Michael, the author, trying to figure out why this manor is so creepy. And I feel like we can't really discuss too much along those lines without getting into spoilers. I also don't know what you would consider spoiler territory, because you go into this like, okay, it's a horror game. I'm not going to spend the entire game writing a book. Like, you just spend 3 real-life days typing. Although, I'm completely new to this genre of point-and-click shit. It took me 35 minutes to figure out how to use the key in my inventory to open the door. So, I was like, I clicked on the key, and I'm clicking on the door while I was still in the inventory menu. You have to like left click the item and then right click to close the inventory screen to keep the item out while you're still looking around. And so I guess in game, Michael was just looking at the key in his pocket, putting it back, and then slamming his face into the door. And then I did a full sweep of the surrounding perimeter because I thought maybe there was something I was missing. So I knew where the greenhouse was. I knew where the, I think it was the mausoleum. I knew where that was. And then I finally got into the house. But not everything is as it seems in the confines of Blackwood Manor.
No, it's not. It's spooky in there. So yeah, we'll get into spoilers pretty much immediately, but right before we do that, I'm gonna say, hey, if you like point-and-click adventure games, or even if you don't, but you want to try, or if you just like spooky games, go play this game, because it's really good. It's technically abandonware because it's not available on Steam, even though it has a Steam page. But you can find it in other ways. I won't say what, but it's out there. It's floating around. Go play it. It rules.
Yeah, I was thankful that it was mysteriously installed on my computer. Perhaps another mystery.
Whoa!
Will or will not be solved.
Yeah, I can't record this podcast. I need to figure out the mystery of Jam's haunted computer.
yeah. Sorry, Emma. I have to lock myself in my room. I need to figure out this mystery.
Yeah, go play it, and then you have to come back and hear our thoughts. Yeah. Obviously.
Also have a walkthrough next to you.
Yeah. I'm not one of those purists that's like, no, you have to go through the game and figure out all of the puzzles and be a true fan. That? There are some people like that. The point-and-click adventure community is like pretty chill because it's pretty old. But there's some people that like, I mean, even in modern gaming, there's people who are like, if you don't go through it blind the first time, you're not getting the true experience.
That's how I feel with games like Elden Ring or something. With this, I was like, there's no human way I was going to solve the majority of these puzzles. I don't know if I'm just stupid or if the puzzles are hard, and we'll get into that later. But I told Emma, I was like, if you played this game and were not allowed to have a walkthrough, I feel like it would take you literally years of searching and fiddling around with things.
Yeah, especially if you can't use the inventory.
Okay, well, I brute forced it eventually, and I was like, there's gotta be something. There's only so many buttons on this damn mouse.
There's only 2 buttons I can possibly press.
Alright, enough about that, though. Why is the manor spooky, Kaden? What's weird about the manor?
Alright, so the manor was previously owned and built by James T. Blackwood, just this rich guy who had a very strong interest in African... I wouldn't even call it an interest in African culture. He's interested in stealing things from Africa. He is British.
Yeah.
So he's over there building bridges and stealing all their stuff and calling them inhuman creatures. So pretty cool.
I think I had a one episode streak of not bashing British people in the UK, and he falls into such a stereotype, though. He's like, wow, these savages in South Africa, and I took their mask. Aha.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man. And he has his own like private like exhibit in his manor of all the stuff that he stole.
Yeah, it's pretty normal, pretty cut and dry, run-of-the-mill for a rich British guy in
1960?
Yeah, I think he was over there in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, he was over there in the 1950s, and then he comes back at the beginning of the 1960s. And then this game takes place in 1976. So I think the house has been abandoned for like 13 years at this point when you arrive as Michael. It's not just spooky because he's racist, although that's pretty spooky. So he stole some artifacts from Africa, and in particular, this mask that was used by a tribe he was quote-unquote studying, but really just like creeping on. He became enamored with this mask that they were using for a ritual, and he's like, I just have to have it. I just have to. I don't care, I will get it. Somehow he gets it, and he brings it back, and then a bunch of tragedies begin to befall him, and he's convinced that this mask is actually haunted and is containing like an evil god that this tribe had contained in a mask by doing these rituals. And he thinks that because the rituals have not been continuing, he is now cursed by this evil spirit, and that's why all shit is going down in his house. And then when you get there, you discover all this, and then something's not right. Ooh.
He observed the tribe, like, ripping a guy apart just with their bare hands.
Yeah.
And it's like a sacrifice. Like, the guy that gets ripped apart isn't, like, screaming or anything. And according to the research that he's done, they will attack anyone that is near their tribe. And so, like, if anyone settles near them, I guess they'll attack. Which is giving a conflicted report here, because he talks about how they were building a railroad or something, and the tribe was stalking the workers and like watching them from the trees. And if there's any like consistency there, wouldn't they like get attacked?
Right, they never get attacked.
Yeah, and I have no idea how he would have gotten his hands on like one of their most important religious artifacts ever.
Yeah, he never writes about how he acquires it. I kind of assume that they just go in with guns and he just takes it.
I mean, but he's, I don't know, because I feel like he would have mentioned that bit too. Like, he just seems like such a piss baby, because he like, I can't scarce imagine in my darkest nightmares what I saw there. Anyway, I walked in and I took the mask.
Yeah, and now it's in my house.
Yeah, it's in my house. I took it. Yeah, so he's a character. Yeah, he's hearing something in the house when you go through his like little journal or whatever entries. Yeah, I think they are journal entries.
Yeah.
He's hearing something.
There's something in the house. He's convinced about it.
You might even say it's the titular scratching.
Oh! Now, okay, interestingly, I don't think that any of these journal entries or letters ever mention any scratching, maybe one of them, but people are writing that they're hearing whispers and they're hearing voices.
They do talk about that, that is true.
Yeah, that's what they're hearing. And then when Michael arrives, he ends up hearing two different things. He hears whispers, and then he also is hearing the titular scratches, like you said.
Oh. Okay, I guess I mixed those up. Yeah, because I guess he does James only refers to the whispers. I thought he referred to something in the cellar.
I think Christopher is referring to the cellar. So we should set up that there's like three characters that you read about in the past. So there's James T. Blackwood, the owner of the mansion, his wife Catherine, whom he was accused of murdering, and then their close family friend, Dr. Christopher Milton, who's also somehow involved. And then they have a maid who ended up taking a picture and providing evidence of Blackwood murdering and trying to bury his wife in the yard.
Yeah, very convenient that she was an amateur photographer at this time.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, I just happened to be around here. That's a camera taking noise, by the way. And she just takes a picture of Blackwood killing his wife, burying his wife. And then the townspeople are like, oh, he did that shit.
Yeah.
And then he died, quote unquote.
Yeah, there's a report that he died 2 years, not even 2 years, like 2 months later, after his wife's death of like a heart attack, allegedly.
The stress of the accusations.
Yeah. Everyone said mean things to him, and it was too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's those four in the past.
Yeah. So Chris was the one talking about the noises in the basement, the cellar.
Yeah, because after James and his wife are dead, Christopher takes over the house, and then he keeps a record of hearing things in the basement, and then also hearing whispers and thinking like, oh, maybe James was right the whole time, something's going on, I have to get out of here. And then he was never heard from again, and nobody knows what happened to him. Rip. And the maid lives, which is, I feel like, kind of surprising for these types of stories, where normally it's like the maid was the last one to see this evidence, and then she like dies. But no, she just leaves. She's like, this place sucks, I'm out of here.
Yeah, everyone's acting weird, and also I saw the husband burying his wife, so I'm out. Bye-bye.
So you have those four in the past, and then in the present we have Michael, who you're playing as, and his real estate agent Jerry, and his secretary Barbara, and you can call them on the phone.
Yeah, I love Jerry and Barbara. Like,
Me too.
They're a fun little comfort, because while you're uncovering these mysteries and you're going around this creep ass house, you can just hop on the phone, and I mean, sometimes the game will be like, you don't have anyone to call right now, but a lot of times you're like, oh, what's up, Jerry? Things are creepy. And you also, like, I think they do a good job of explaining Michael's actions, at least when he's on the phone. When he's in front of the typewriter and you just get the text that's like, I'm too excited to type. I have to explore. Adventure awaits. But when he's on the phone, he's like, Jerry, do not fuck this up for me. I'm gonna solve this mystery. Do not call the police. Do not call the police. And it's like, okay, well, at least we're acknowledging that, like, Michael sees that a sane person would call the police if he thought someone was in the house with him, but he's going to try to solve the mystery because he's like a weird Stephen King type.
Yeah, he wants to do it himself. He even writes, I don't know if you read like all of his journal entries.
There's a journal in this too. Oh my god, dude.
It's in the inventory.
Oh, I don't. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Because I remember going through his inventory when I was in the 35-minute purgatory in the beginning of the game, and I was like, there's got to be answers somewhere, and I clicked on his journal, and I just got a face full of blank page. And then I never thought of it again.
Yeah. He writes through the entire game.
No!
Yeah. He missed out.
God damn it.
It's great. He just writes, it's just a lot of like, I must be insane for doing this. Which he is.
Yeah, at least a little bit. Although I do like when you try to do certain actions with items, like if you try to use the knife on something that you're not supposed to, or the lighter, or sorry, not the lighter, the matches, he'll go either like, I could hurt myself, or I'm not a pyromaniac. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's fun. He's got a little bit of character there. It's better than no use for that now.
Yeah, he's really, he's a little loopy, but he's really cute. I find him very endearing.
Yeah, I like Jerry a lot, too.
Me too. Till, later. Spoiler alert for Jerry lovers.
Should we just rip the Band-Aid off and say the mystery? Like, so that we can discuss this in its totality, its wholeness, what the story is, and talk about the game, and then we can move on to the more technical aspects as well.
Alright, let's rip it.
Rip it?
Yep. I'm ready. Are you ripping it or am I ripping it?
You rip it. You're this is your moment.
Alright, here we go. Turns out it might not be a spooky demon mask after all that's causing grief in the house. It could be a child locked up in the basement for over a decade. Very sad. A deformed child whose name is Robin, and you slowly piece this together over the course of the game. Like, you read everyone's journal entries, you find records of different things, you find a secret room that was a baby's room with a birth certificate, you read through old newspapers that report, like, James and Catherine Blackwood lost their child at birth and he died, but turns out they covered the whole thing up and locked their poor child in the basement because he was born with birth defects and they didn't want to deal with that. James is convinced that these birth defects were caused by the mask that he brought back from Africa because he thinks it's cursed. In reality, and this is made very clear if you play the DLC, which is like 20 minutes long. I don't really like it because it spells things out so clearly, but there is, in a drawer in the master bedroom, there's bottles of thalidomide. So if you know anything about thalidomide, it was used for like morning sickness and for pregnancy pains. But it
literally causes birth defects.
Yeah, it causes horrible birth defects. So Christopher Milton, their family doctor, was prescribing thalidomide to Catherine during her pregnancy, and then she had a really, really rough pregnancy and really rough birth, and Robin was born with horrible birth defects, and they just wanted to cover it up, and they're a rich family, and they didn't want anyone to know that they had a child who had birth defects. So they locked him in the basement and just left him down there and fed him like raw meat and just left him to rot. And eventually Robin is the one who kills Catherine at 2 years old, which I'm not sure exactly how. He rips her throat open somehow. I'm assuming with his teeth. I don't know how else a 2-year-old would kill a full-grown woman.
Could I find that in the base game, or is that a DLC thing that you find out?
You can infer it. So when you read about Catherine's death in the newspaper, the report is that the maid saw that her throat had been like ripped open.
Oh yeah, I remember
when she's being buried. Yeah. So then when you go down into it turns out there's a secret lair below the house, and that's where the scratches are coming from. If you go down there, there's a little teddy bear like in the corner.
And that had been bit a bunch.
Yeah,
on the
its
neck.
throat is torn open in the same way. So you can infer that when Robin was 2, he somehow ripped his mom's throat open and killed her, which is crazy. It's rough.
That is truly insane. I do not think a 2-year-old would be able to do that. I'm going to show my whole ass here. I didn't even realize that was the kid at the end.
Oh, you thought it was like a monster.
No, I thought that was a grief-stricken and insane James Blackwell that was down there with a keepsake from his son, and he had just like taken his studies underground since he didn't want to deal with the above ground anymore. I just thought that was him down there skulking
That's
around.
Interesting. I think that's a valid interpretation. Because I've played the DLC, they like spell it out for you.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, they do. I'm not a super fan of the DLC just because I feel like the ambiguous ending is way more impactful. So I think it's cool that you had a different interpretation. And as a bonus, I can tell you about the alternate ending, which I thought for like a split second when you were playing the game and you were yelling about Michael not writing his book. I thought like, oh my god, what if he accidentally gets the alternate ending? Which you didn't do because you followed the walkthrough, which is good because I think it's better this way. But if you force Michael to try writing on the typewriter like every single hour, like every free chance you get, you try to get his ass on that typewriter. At the end of the game, when you go down into the lair, there won't be a hole in the wall or blood or anything. There'll just be a skeleton. Typewriter. I'm waiting for you.
Skeleton?
Yeah, there's a skeleton down there with a note, and it's like, hey, it's me, James Blackwood. I killed my wife, and I'm sorry, and I just can't deal with this anymore. And I killed Christopher also. I locked him in the crypt alive, and he's rotting in a coffin, and I'm just gonna die down here now. So sorry, guys.
What?
Yeah, so you like read that note.
The ending?
That's the ending. The alternate ending is you read that, and then Michael says some shit like, I had tears in my eyes because I realized that I was also insane. And then he leaves, and that's the end. So
that's unhinged. Well,
yeah.
To rewind it a bit, the reason why I thought he was still alive was his tomb was empty, and it seemed like he had left his journal in like these different like hidden spots, and like there's like a crazy compartment under the chapel where you have to like put a nail in like the ankles of the crucifix that's at the front of it, and then there's this crazy ass like pulley system thing where the crucifix like drops down from the lights. I think that was probably the scariest moment for me because it looked like it was gonna fall on Michael. And like you go down there and he's got like these notes about the mask and some ritual, and I was like, okay, so he's just gone underground. He's a mole man.
Yeah.
And the ending that you just described almost made it sound like he was waiting for you down there, and he just realized it was taking so long, and he just turned into a skeleton.
He just died waiting for Michael.
Yeah, just died of old age. Anyway, here's what happened. You're obviously not going to take the time to solve the puzzles. Here you go. You seem busy.
I think I like that ending better. That's great. Yeah, he really did just die. I mean, in my interpretation. You can interpret it however you want. And I think Michael agrees with you more than he would agree with me, because I don't think he ever really pieces it together. And also, like, he never talks to anybody about it. They talk about this in the DLC also. Michael never speaks to the press about it. He never tells anybody what he found. He won't talk to anyone. And also, Jerry went to jail for fraud for 4 years.
Fucking
and Michael
Jerry,
won't talk to
man.
him. Yeah. So, and it makes Michael look even worse because he found that there was someone, like either a child or a man, living this horrible life in a basement, and he just left and didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo, like, wind up like, like he just gets out of there. Like, when I finished the game, I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
Like, he sees the person, whoever you interpret it as, but it's probably Robin, now that you've told me all this. He sees this poor person that's been locked in this actual-ass dungeon.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, get me out of here. And he
Yeah.
hops in his car, roll credits.
And he leaves. I think his problem is that he's so content-brained. He's like, this is perfect for my new book. I'm never telling anyone because otherwise they'll think I didn't come up with it myself. So I'm leaving this person locked in there. I'm out of here. I'm writing, and I'm going to be a millionaire.
I find it hard to believe that he would move very quickly if the end destination was him writing something, from what I've seen.
Screw this. He leaves his typewriter in the house.
Good.
So
Good. You don't
he'll
need
never
a
write
typewriter,
again.
Michael.
Yeah. He hates that thing.
Dude, I find it so pretentious when people use a typewriter now. But I guess back then it was more of a necessity. But so yeah, Michael kind of comes out looking bad. So Jerry, like, so what? What exactly did he do? Because when I was playing this, I was pretty determined to just kind of muscle through it. And it kind of just happens where you get an eviction notice and Michael's like, oh, I don't feel like talking to Jerry anymore. Did he, like, lie about getting access to this place? Or did he defraud Michael of money? Or what happened?
Yeah, he somehow acquired the key to the house and all the information about the house through less than legal means, because he ends up going to jail for fraud. So some type of fraud. I don't know if it was like the funding side of it was fraud or what, but yeah, he didn't acquire this house legally, so technically Michael doesn't own it, neither does Jerry, so you get an eviction notice at the end. If you read the letter from Jerry that's in Michael's luggage, he's like, oh, you wouldn't imagine what I had to go through to get this house for you. I had to commit crimes for you, Michael.
Literal, actual, actionable crimes. And what was I gonna say? There's a really loose interpretation of the law in this, because like there's the bank account contact number that you can call.
Yeah.
Where all Michael does is lie about who he is and then say, I'm Dr. So-and-so and I demand some respect. And the person on the other end's like, oh, sorry, sir. Okay. Here, you can have some information about a different person than who you're even claiming to be. And then you get a hold of the police officer that handled the the murder of Catherine, and they didn't even do an autopsy on her body.
No, they didn't even dig up her body. And they just write it off as like, oh, Blackwood was rich, and so because he was rich, he held us up, and we couldn't get access to his property to dig up the body. Even though they had a literal photo of him burying the body on his property. Like, what's up with UK law in the 70s? It's bad.
I don't think it could be that bad. Like, that is literally a photograph of a dead body. I don't know. It's a little goofy. It's an interesting mix of, like, dread and, like, sadness and paranoia, and then you get, Jerry, I'm freaking out. There's no candles in this place. And, like, oh, God, that's my favorite line in the whole game. Like,
mine too.
Because Jerry's telling Michael, because there's no electricity, like, oh, hey, like, there's got to be a candle in there. And then you look around, and Michael calls him out. I'm freaking out, Jerry. I might even put the clip in here. I don't know if we'll get copyright stricken by Team Nucleosys.
By a defunct company.
Yeah, it could be their way to get back. The way they claw their way back. They empty the NPC treasury and then rebuild themselves.
Yeah, I love that line. And then when you go in the hole, the secret hidey hole under the chapel, and it's dark, he looks to the right, and he's like, out of all things, what do you know? It's a candle. And he lights the candle. It's great. I love it. I love that the game pokes fun at itself, too.
Yeah, and he likes candelabras. I noticed that throughout it. Like, he'll call everything else in the house a piece of junk, but he will regularly be like, it was full of ornate, eloquent candelabras. Like, okay, dude.
He loves it. He's so candle-pilled, it's crazy.
I'm a Waxmaxxing candle cell. I totally wick-mogged somebody the other day.
Oh my god. Okay, you're losing me now.
Alright, so now that we have given a comprehensive explanation of the story, the setting, some of the people in the game, can we talk about the graphics?
Yes.
I'm just going to say this, as someone who didn't play point-and-click games, really, this isn't even me poking fun. I don't think I've played a point-and-click adventure game since that old Rugrats game in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s. It was very disorienting sometimes to have to click to move and then, like, get around. But aside from that, and some other... I have a few minor complaints, but I do want to preface those by saying that I thought this game was beautiful and atmospheric. I thought it was very creepy, very cool. Was very effective at making me feel uncomfortable in some areas. I want to give you a chance to gush about it too before I give some specifics.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They built their own engine for this game. And it's called Scream, and I wrote down what it stands for somewhere. It's the Simple Creation Engine for Adventure Makers.
Aww,
so that they can have the Scream acronym. Yeah, it's cute. Because if you play like classic point-and-click games from the 90s, like you said, it's like you're always on a pretty static screen, and you still click to move and you click to investigate things, but you can't like turn your head and like look around the environment like you could in a 3D. And they wanted to blur the line and kind of do a natural progression from the old point-and-click games. So they created this engine where everything is pre-rendered and all of the screens are just flat 2D images, but they wrap them around you 360 degrees so you can look around on every location that you're in, and you still click to move, and then when you move you're in a totally different like space, but you can still look around 360 degrees in that space. And I think the illusion works really well. Like there's some parts where it's like, okay, clearly this is just like a flat picture of a desk and not really a desk, but I think overall it's pretty good at selling it as a 3D space. And it's interesting because technology's kind of come back around to that in a way in VR.
It's like VR,
yeah. Where you click to move, you kind of teleport to that spot, and then you can look all the way around. And they were doing it like in 2D in 2006, which I think is really cool.
It is like VR in that it's a little... I think it's very immersive. I was surprised, but like there's some interesting spots where they have it set up where your camera will stop there. And I feel like there's no reason for it other than to build suspense. Like when you're going up and down stairways, there are spots that you will jump to where it's just you halfway up or down the stairs. And this didn't happen, but if it would have, I probably would have like freaked the fuck out. I thought that they were gonna have like people or like shadowy figures or whatever like downstairs while you're heading upstairs that like you would be able to notice, but you can still like look down into the living room area as you're ascending the stairs, and it just gave, for me at least, a weird feeling of like, if I can look down there, that means something else can like see me while I'm moving through this house, and I might miss it because you do have that 360 like look around like ability, just like VR, and it made me not want to look around sometimes. Yeah. Where I was like, I'm about to go up this staircase, and there's a long, creepy hallway, and it's midnight. I think I'm gonna look at the ground as I walk through here until I get to the door, and then I'm gonna click that doorknob, and then I'm out of there, and I'm safe, and I'm in a different room.
Yeah, I'm so glad it was really effective. Yeah, I think it really works too, because you're not sure what the engine can and cannot do, and what the game can and cannot use to scare you. So there would be moments, I had that too, where like I'd open a door, and that's the only time the game uses like kind of a little cutscene, is when you're opening a door. It does like the Resident Evil thing where you watch the door open. And I would always be so scared to enter the next room because I didn't know what I was going to see, and I didn't know if there was going to be something that could like do something to me. And I didn't know, like, I don't know the rules. It's not like when you're playing like Dead Space, where you're like, okay, I'm getting jump scared, but like I have tools to fight this stuff. I know what I can and can't do. I understand the movement. I know all the game mechanics. Where in this game, you just never really know if it's gonna throw something new at you or not. And I think that's really effective and terrifying. Ooh.
Yeah. And they do it once, I think.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I won't, because I want that to be a surprise for people who are playing, who might listen to this and go play scratches. I was reading the walkthrough, and this was an adorable walkthrough, because they were like, all right, now turn around and go through the door. Eek! And I was like, I wonder what that... And I'm looking at my other monitor, and I slowly look over, and I got hit with the scare. And I was like, oh, God! Like,
oh, it's so scary.
Yeah. But yeah, very effective. Another thing I want to comment on is the paintings that are set up throughout the house. There's a huge number of, like... I feel bad that I don't know the names of the paintings, but you, like, anyone listening to this would have seen some of these paintings. Some of them are biblical, like Renaissance-style paintings. A lot of them, I think, are like early 1900s, creepy. I don't know. They're just fucking creepy ones. And there's one. It's the kid with the. And I'm trying to be nice to this kid, but this is the only description I have for him. It's a male child with like a big old forehead, and then he's got like a creepy doll next to him, and then a bunch of hands up against a window behind him too. That everyone knows that picture.
Yep.
It sets the tone immediately when you're going through this house. Like, even though it's broad daylight, you're like, oh, this is bad. Like, there is something fucked. That someone went out of their way to get all these creepy paintings, and one, put them in the house, in world, and two, put them in this video game. Like, the messaging is very clear that you're supposed to be unnerved.
Yeah, that painting's called The Hands Resist Him. So, look it up, viewer. It's very creepy. It's really cool. They have that on one wall, and then, like, right on the opposite wall they have the Goya painting of Saturn devouring his son.
Yeah.
Which, like, why would you have that hang up in your house? Like, I love that painting, but you're gonna scare all your rich, fancy guests if you put that up in your house.
It's a good conversation starter.
Yeah, it rules.
I've seen so many parodies of it at this point. I think it's funny. Like, that actually broke the tension for me, where I was like, oh, spooky hand, and then I was like, it's Saturn. He's getting crazy. He's partying a little too hard. I see. Hey, make sure they don't swap him out for a rock next time, buddy. Okay. And then you know how it all goes. That's more for the Hades episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it rules. And it makes sense. I mean, James Blackwood was collecting and stealing all kinds of artifacts, so I feel like it tracks for him to have creepy paintings in his house, too. Why not?
Yeah.
He's a freak.
Can I give a complaint, though?
Yes, you can.
The outside sections of the game, when you have to navigate, like, where you need to go, at least for me, the paths were, like, super dark.
Yeah.
And so there's like a section where you can you're leaving the greenhouse, you can either look at a tree or go back on the path to the house. And the path, I could not for the life of me find. So in the beginning of the game, during my 35-minute purgatory session, I thought that was part of the horror. For a second, I was like, I'm stuck in the greenhouse. It's this tree again. And then I was like, oh, I just can't see where I'm going.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I don't know why they do that. When you leave the greenhouse, it just puts like a bush directly in your face. And you're like, well, this isn't a path, this is a bush. So then you take the obvious path, but it just loops you back around to some random tree. You're really just supposed to click on the bush, and then you can go back to the house. But yeah, I agree. It's super unclear.
Yeah, and there's a few, like, when you go to pick up items, like, depending on your brightness settings on your monitor, I don't know if they even have those in the game, but I would read through the walkthrough, and it would be like, pick up the screwdriver and this other item. And I'm like, well, I could kind of see the screwdriver. It was a little hard, but you're telling me there was a second item in that dark-ass drawer? And I would just have to click around. I really felt like I was Michael just rummaging around like a little freak until I finally got what I was looking for.
Yeah, you can turn up the gamma, but like it's a blessing and a curse, because then like some of the parts that are supposed to be dark and spooky might be ruined. So you really have to watch the little hand icon, because if it changes to a grabby hand, you gotta mash the click and pick up whatever's in the dark.
I will say that the sound design in this, I think, oh man, I feel conflicted, because overall I think they did a good job making the game creepy and full of tension. But when you get stuck in some spots and you have to listen to the same musical notes over and over again, I actually started to get like a headache on some parts. So I was, again, I felt like Michael. I felt like my sanity was slipping a little bit.
Whoa,
like,
it's part of the horror.
Yeah. But overall, I think the musical score, great. The thunder, awesome. The sound, the music that plays when you go in the cellar for the first time, I think they distilled that like skittish feeling you get when you have to run downstairs and then shut the light off and then run back up. It's like they turned that into pure audio. Because I was like, I gotta get out of here. I shouldn't be in the basement.
Oh, it's bad. It's so scary. And if you go on the soundtrack, which is on Spotify, for some reason, if you wanted to listen to a terrifying soundtrack, like while you're on the treadmill, that track for the cellar is just called What You've Waited For. Because, like, you're going to have to go down there, and then you do, and you're like, yep. Yep. It's so scary. It rules. So shout out to Cellar of Rats. And they only play that track one time.
Yeah.
And it's only when you go in the basement the very first time. But like all the other times you go down there, even though that track is not playing and is silent, like you keep that residual fear from that first time.
Yeah.
Which rules.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I went down there, I could not get out of there soon enough. I was like, all right, do what I need to do. I'm gone now. And then, like you said, that sticks with you. Every other time I had to go down in the cellar, I was dreading it. I was like, oh my God, please don't come up with some reason for me to go down in the cellar.
Yeah, it rules. It's super scary. I love the sound design in this game. Even like outside, there's that howling wind, which I love, and the skybox. It has like the clouds are just orange.
Yeah, they're evil.
It looks like the apocalypse. It looks like how New York has looked with that Canadian like smoke, and they had the orange sky. Like something's wrong.
Yeah, it really does give off the feeling of wrongness. Although there's one day where the sky is like normal, right?
Yeah, the day where you dig up the body.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's great.
Weather for it. So.
Yeah, I love that.
The voice acting. Now that you told me that it was like a 3-person team, I mean, the voice acting makes a little bit more sense to me, because I felt like Michael, Jerry, and what was her name, Barbara?
Yeah.
Those 3, great, but then the people that you call, like the bank person and the retired cop, I was like, wait a second. Are you just Jerry or Michael with like doing a gruff voice? I mean, I could be wrong, but they at least seemed like they weren't of the same caliber as the other 3. I thought the main 3 were very endearing, and I think they were great. But I don't know, do you have any insight on the voice acting there?
Yeah, so when I said the 3-person team, I was not counting the voice actors. I was just counting like the programmers and like the writers. So they did actually outsource and get some other people for the voice acting. But I'm not sure if any of them doubled up or not. So you could be onto something there. But I agree that like the cop just sounds like sleepy, like he's tired.
Yeah, like
he's bored.
This is me. No, this is the cop that I am calling.
Yeah,
but
like this is me, and then now I'm a bank teller. Like,
yeah,
okay.
I'm like, oh man, like, come on, because the rest of it's so immersive and fun.
But overall, I think they're good. And the guy playing Jerry, this is a fun fact. You had mentioned to me that Astrid was interested in another point-and-click called The Lost Crown and getting you to play that.
Yeah.
And the voice actor for Jerry is the guy who wrote Lost Crown and also a couple other point-and-clicks called, like, Dark Falls or something like that. And the developers of this were big fans, and so they asked him to voice act on their project, and he was like, yeah, sure. And he does a great job.
Yeah. That rules.
Yeah, so it's cool. Yeah.
The cinematic universe. It's all
Yo, the Jerry multiverse. I think Barbara's the best in terms of voice acting, and also I love her character, and I think it's a shame that you only really can talk to her on the first day.
Yeah.
It's too bad. She's really fun.
Yeah, we love Barbara in this household.
Yeah. Hope she gets that raise.
Yeah, she better. You can probably take it out of Jerry's wages now that he's getting shit canned. He's out.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, Jerry. This is a Hail Mary here, but have you ever listened to the Magnus Archives? It's like a horror podcast.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. The main 2 characters in that give off like the same dynamic that Michael and Jerry have before Jerry is revealed to be a scumbag. And I was like, oh, this feels like oddly familiar. And then I finally pinned it down. I'm like, oh, they remind me of those 2. But it's neither here nor there. People listening to this, go listen to the Magnus Archives. It's really good.
I'll go listen to it. I'm gonna headcanon that it's Michael and Jerry.
It would almost fit, sort of. Not really, kind of. But
good enough.
Actually, this next question ties into that. Do you think anything supernatural was happening at the house?
So I'm torn on this. The first time I played it, I was a little bit like salty that they had like a rational explanation for it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of lame. Because, you know, when you explain the mystery all the way, it kind of loses some of its like magic, I think. Yeah. So when I played like, and you didn't play the DLC, but they really spell it out, and like it's confirmed that that's Robin in the basement. Christopher comes back at the end and is like, Robin, I had to see you one more time. It's like, okay, yeah, I just thought, like, I kind of wished that it had been a spooky mask with a spooky cat god, because, like, I think that's cool. That's creepy. That's fun.
Where did the voices come from, then, that everyone's hearing?
So I guess if you took the totally logical kid locked in the basement theory route, it would just be that, like, James was super paranoid and just lost his mind, and then Christopher ended up having the same thing happen to him.
No way.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, that's how you would have to headcanon that.
Because, okay, at the end of the game, when you're doing the ritual, like, you've found the mask and you've done the weird, like, powder mixing shit, you hear, like...
Yeah.
Like in the, like, you are hearing the nefarious laughter of a spirit. Like, there is some evil presence having a fucking knee-slapping grand old time. And Michael has, like, prophetic vision dreams, like, dreams that are guiding him to answers. And I don't think you can get that from Robin whispering things in the vents.
Right. So if you read the journal, if you're a pro gamer and know how to read the journal...
I'm anti-journal.
He kind of waves away the dreams, and he's like, oh, because he has a dream that there's a secret door behind a display cabinet in the gallery, and then turns out there is. And he writes in his journal, like, oh, I must have, like, seen the door frame and not really noticed, but, like, my subconscious remembered it, so then I had a dream about it later, even though, like, it looks literally exactly how it looks. He, like, waves it away, and then even at, like, the very end, when you've created the amulet to complete the ritual, he writes in there, like, yeah, I guess I'm doing this ritual. I don't know if I really believe in this story, but, like, oh, well, I'm doing it anyway, I guess. So they try to... And the journal was added specifically in the director's cut. It wasn't in the original game. So they try to make it like, oh, it could just be that Michael, like, is also happens to be going insane. It's kind of like a Shining. It's like Shining syndrome, where you could interpret it as, like, the hotel really is possessed and Jack Nicholson goes crazy because of evil ghosts, or he was just in solitude for so long that he went nuts.
And he did the moon landing.
Yeah, yeah, in the hotel room. They try to do that type of thing, but, like, it is true that Michael's only there for 3 days. So, like, that's a little fast.
And half that time he's looking for candles. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would drive me insane if I had to look every inch of a house for candles, and then I was freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, I almost cracked in the first half hour of the game. Let me in!
Yeah, so... It's plausible that he was just losing his mind, but I think I still like the supernatural stuff a little bit more. On replay, I did find the actual, like, real explanation more compelling, because I think the game's really well written in, like, all the journal entries, even if it's a little stereotypical, like, ho, I am evil British to steal all your stuff, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I think the way that the characters, like, write to each other about their circumstances is compelling, and I really like the way that you piece the story together very slowly. So I found that stuff a lot more compelling the second time. And there is something to be said about, like, I don't know, is it weird if, like, the supernatural thing is weird that this evil British guy believed in? Like, is that weird? Is that okay? I don't know.
Yeah, I would have liked the supernatural bit to be either ambiguous or like, oh yeah, it turns out it's real. But it does feel weird when it's like, I went and I stole this from some savages, and they savaged someone in the street, and it's like, okay, dude, I get it. Like,
yeah, like, I don't want him to be right because he's such a shitty guy.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying, but I do think there's no way Michael just, oh, I must have seen the outline, and no, dude, you either have powers or there's a ghost.
Yeah.
Sorry, those are the two options. So you figure it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean that way too, and I think it's more fun that way if there's something spooky going on. But they do try to play it like, because you'd only hear. Well, yeah, you're right that at the end you hear the voices for real. But up until then, you only hear, like, the knocking and whispering in the dream sequences, and then the scratching you hear in real life. So yeah. For a while, they have you going like it could be either or.
True.
Which is cool.
So, when you proposed this game for an episode of the podcast, you said that you had nightmares about it. Right?
Yeah.
What was the scariest part of this game for you? Because I'll be honest, aside from the like 1 or 2 parts that I've already mentioned, and the one I don't want to spoil for the people listening, I wasn't too like I was on edge, but I was never like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm going through this. Like, what was the scariest for you?
So I have like a fear of like home invasion, which is like totally irrational because I've never been home invaded. But I have like this fear, and I have a fear that like I'll walk into a room and someone will just be there, and they'll be standing there. They're not supposed to be there.
That's what I was afraid of with the going up the stairs thing. I was terrified that I would be doop-a-doo walking up the stairs, and because they have that spot where you stop and you can look past the the bannerets or whatever, the railing for the stairs. Banister. I knew there was some fancy word for it. I was terrified that I would just see someone there, like just kind of like arms slightly apart, like not quite T-posing. But I was terrified of that. I thought that was going to happen in the game. Sorry, I just had to get that out. That was what I was most afraid of happening in this. So I was scared of that like the whole time. And I was afraid to go in every room because I'm like, something's gonna be happening. Every time I had to go in the kitchen, I was terrified. Just because, like, the cellar door is there. Like, not even going into the cellar, just going into the kitchen terrified me. Because I'm like, I'm gonna walk in there one time and the cellar door is just gonna be open. And I was convinced of this. I'm like, and nothing else will be scary, but the door will just be open. And I didn't open it. And, like, I just was so terrified of that. And I played this game on stream. Oh,
and normally, I played it with Stell, actually, friend of the show. Shout out. We played it because she also loves point and clicks. And normally when I play a game on stream, it's not as scary because you have a lot of other distractions. You know, like you're talking to people the whole time, you're talking to yourself. It takes you out of it to some extent. But, like, this game, it's still, like, I couldn't do stuff. Like, there would be stretches where I would just, like, have to sit there. And I'm like, Stell, I can't click. I'm so scared. Like, something is gonna be different in the room, and I'm so terrified. I don't know, it got to me. The atmosphere was so intense. And even replaying it just scared me. So I think, if I had to pick a moment, it would be pretty much like all of night 2.
Is that when it's raining?
Is it raining during the night? Night 2?
I don't remember.
It's raining during the day. Night 2 is when you have the really scary part that you are not spoiling.
Yeah, and that is the scariest part for me.
It's so scary. Oh, it's so scary. I won't spoil it either, but, like, I think I screamed on stream.
Is there a clip of it?
I think there is. Yeah, there's a clip of it. Okay. I'll send it to you later.
Yeah, you have to.
It's so scary. And the game, it just ratchets up the tension like crazy. And then it does the 1-2 punch because they scare you with that, and then immediately the very next sequence is when you have to go in the cellar. Can I spoil this part? Should we spoil this part?
Go for it.
You have to climb into the boiler.
Oh,
which
dude.
Is so...
Yeah, I was like, what the hell are you doing, Michael? Like,
oh
why
my
are you
god.
climbing into the boiler? And you, every time you click on, like, the furnace or whatever, he's like, oh, it creeps me out. It's very menacing. All right, well, head first.
Yeah, he is a wild. He, like, it's like when you are possessed by the spirit of shredded cheese at 2 a.m. and you, like, have to go to the fridge. That's how he gets with the boiler at 2 a.m. He's like, I have to climb in. I just have to go in.
That hole is
and
meant
it's
for
so
me.
Scary. Yeah.
It's a Junji Ito reference, not a weird sex pervert reference, by the way. Just want to clear that up.
I don't know. There's some overlap there, I think. Oh my god. Yeah, so you have to immediately climb into the boiler after you've already been scared out of your mind by the first scariest part of the game. And they drag it out. There's like 3 interior boiler screens.
Yeah! How big is this fucking boiler?
It's a massive...
I thought it was going to like Narnia or some shit eventually. I was like, am I still in this world? Or is Michael gonna fucking flop out and he's gonna be in a different planet? Yeah, that was a little scary.
I hated that. I hated it. And then they scare you at the end with like a little cutscene, which is the only time you see anything like actually moving.
Yeah.
Like on screen until the very end of the game. And that also, I screamed. It was so
Really?
scary. Oh my god. Even though it looks a little jank, it still got me.
It looked very
Like it just
jank.
glides by. Yeah.
Like when I got to that and then they rolled credits, I was like, he had nightmares over this.
Yeah, I did. Well, yeah.
And I was like, I was waiting the whole time. I'm like, surely there's gotta be something scarier than what I've seen so far.
I think it really is just the atmosphere. Like,
Yes.
even thinking about it now, just the part at the when you wake up, or like when you're in a dream. A couple times this happens where Michael will wake up out of bed and it'll just say at the bottom like something is wrong ...
Yeah.
Like that fucks me up. Like that's so scary because that's what would happen to me was I would like have nightmares or I would wake up and I'm just like something is wrong. Like something's wrong in my house and I don't know what it is and I'm so scared. Oh.
Did you try walking over to your typewriter?
No, I should try that, and I should climb into my boiler too. Next time.
Yeah, or throw a rope outside your window and start fucking rappelling down it to a hidden. What the fuck? I'm gonna leave that I'll just leave it at that for the folks at home. But Michael gets a little crazy with this exploration.
Yeah, Michael's awesome.
But yeah, I do want to get to the other questions, but I also wanted to just say that I do think that atmosphere is way more sinister than the like quote unquote jump scares.
Yeah.
And there's something like sad and scary about a home that is like either like it's just empty or it's been abandoned. I don't know. Did you ever go to my, and this is a deep Kaden and Jam lore thing, but did I ever invite you over to my uncle's house where there was no one in it? No,
but I heard all the stories about how it was haunted.
Yeah, I mean, like I still think that maybe it was haunted, but there were also just days where you were in there and you're like, no one's living here. Like this is just kind of a sad little empty house. And on day one, when you go into the house and you're just like looking at the paintings and you're like in the kitchen and you're like, no one's eaten here in forever. And I was like, man, this is just like on top of it being creepy later on, it would just seem sad to begin with. And I think they nailed the atmosphere there.
Yeah, they set the tone. And there's like an opening cutscene that has like sad piano music and like slowly pans over like old photos. I think that sets the tone well for it being like a tragic kind of story.
Jerry, I'm freaking out.
That's the only time he freaks out. He freaks out over candles and nothing else. Everything else he's like, I'm getting to the bottom of this, but no candles? That's where I draw the line.
I've held this back as long as I could. The puzzles, Kaden.
Oh god, yeah.
What, in your opinion, is the most ridiculous puzzle in this game?
Okay, the puzzle that is the meanest is when you have to throw a rock at a window to let some light in. Yeah, let's go! It is cruel. It's cruel because it's logical, but then it's like the devs were like, well, this is too easy. So you're supposed to throw this rock at a skylight to let some light in so that you can read like a placard in the crypt. And you're like, okay, this makes sense. You pick up the rock, throw it at the skylight, and then Michael's like, oh, I missed, and the rock vanishes into darkness. So you're like, okay, well, I guess, haha, devs, you got me. That was too easy. There must be some other weird solution with some other tools. So you try everything else out, unless you're looking at the walkthrough. What you're supposed to do is go find the rock that has rolled into a corner and just go back and just throw it again, exactly the same way, and this time it just works. For no reason other than Michael just sucked on the first throw, and it's so mean.
Take the same tool and do the exact same thing. What if I told you I had no fucking idea where the rock was? You can so easily miss everything in this game.
Yeah.
I love. We've entered the we've entered the more critical stage of this episode. An hour in, or however long this is gonna be.
Uh-oh.
It was all rose-tinted glasses earlier, but now the gloves are coming off.
Yeah, let's rip its throat open now, like Robin does.
This is such an insane puzzle. Do you mind if I
Yeah.
finish the explanation to the puzzle? Just
Go
because
ahead.
it's so fucking crazy. You throw the rock again, break the window, you go down to the plaque. Now Michael says, I still can't see it. You're like, alright, what the fuck was that for? Go back to the house, take a screwdriver, unscrew a mirror so that you get the mirror glass from it, and then you combine the mirror with some wire that you got off of the mausoleum that you just broke into, and then obviously you're supposed to take the combined wire mirror and hang it on the candle holder that's on the stairway pointing down to the plaque. And Kaden, the plaque just has the letter R on it, right?
Yeah.
What if I told you I could see the letter R already without the light on it?
You can see it's the one part of the game where something's supposed to be dark, where it's not. It's not!
I could already see that, Michael! I could already see the letter R! I didn't need to go through the most insane puzzle I've ever seen. Are all point-and-click games like this?
I wouldn't say all, but I mean it's a trope.
This is for crazy people. This is the first one I've ever played in my adult life, and it drove me crazy. The part where you need to get oil for your oil-powered lamp, and you find cans of oil, and instead of just going, oh, let me take one of these cans of oil that's holding oil and pour it into my oil lamp, I can't quite make out what fucking brand of oil this. Oh, well, you see, you should take the rag and wipe the can on the left so that you can tell what kind of oil it is. And now you have to take the boring tool and puncture the side of it because you're a fucking barbarian and you can't just open it. Who lives
It's
like
awesome.
this? Who lives like this? It's crazy.
Yeah, you get an oil can, but he refuses to use the oil can, which is full of oil, to fill the lamp because he needs to save it for some rusty hinges. So we gotta poke a hole in the dirty can.
Oh my god.
It rules. It's so good.
It's just
rules.
so crazy. And there's like a puzzle where it's like, in order to get the safe combination, do you remember those blocks on the ground in the baby room? And I'm like, no. I don't remember the numbers on the blocks. And so, yeah, I don't think a human could get through this game without a walkthrough. I mean, someone had to, right?
Yeah, I was looking at old forums, which are still up on some sites, and like the posts are so cute. Because people are like desperately trying to figure things out. They're like, okay guys, I didn't want to have to ask this, but like I've looked over every inch of the mansion for the last 3 hours, and I can't figure out what to do. Could someone please give me a hint? And then like someone gives them like the most cryptic hint, because they don't want to totally spoil it, and then they're like, oh my god, thanks, can't believe I missed that tiny pixel in the corner. And it's very cute. It's very wholesome. But yeah, without a walkthrough, I don't.
Yeah.
In today's world, in today's economy, nah.
Yeah, you've only got so many days on this earth. Please do not spend 90 of them solving all of these problems unassisted. It's impossible.
There's one that's really cute. So, like, for the point-and-click adventurers out there, it's a trope in these games that if there's a key in a keyhole, like on the other side, you're supposed to put the newspaper under the door, and then you poke the key out, it falls, lands on the newspaper, and then you pull it out and slide it under the door, and then you can get through the room. So they have that in here, and since Stell is such a point-and-click aficionado, she was on it. She was like, yes, I know this puzzle, this is the puzzle, this puzzle's in every game, I'm ready to go. So like we did it, and then the key gets stuck under the door because the key's too big, and then Mike was like, whoever thought that dumb trick would work?
Damn.
Like I was like, roast her ass. Get her! It rules. It's so good. It's like an homage to every shitty puzzle game you've ever played, ever. But, like, lovingly.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
I'll just say it. I hate puzzles.
Yeah.
I hate them. And when you were like, try this point-and-click game, I was like, okay. But the atmosphere was so good. The voice acting was so fun. The story was so fun. I still found this to be an enjoyable experience, provided I had the walkthrough right next to me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how you would feel, so I'm glad. I mean, it's like Hades, right? You play for the characters and the story.
Oh, I love the gameplay of Hades.
Oh, damn it.
Also, yeah, no, I enjoy every aspect of Hades. This was like I was gritting my teeth, like getting through every puzzle, but then after I got through the puzzle and I got to the juicy, like, reading the journal bits, I was like, oh, this is awesome. So now that I've done all the work, I can enjoy the good memories that I have, and I'll let the bad ones fade away.
There you go. Yeah.
So
good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm sure I made that sound really appealing for people that haven't played this yet.
You guys, this game sucks, but, like, sometimes Michael says a funny line after.
Yeah, so. He freaks out. But it's worth it. It's worth it. And if you have a walkthrough, it's not that bad. Like, then you can bang it out pretty quickly. I'd say I took the approach of I would try to get as far as I could without the walkthrough, and then I would turn to it when I was stuck. And I would actually, like, I solved, like, 2 puzzles without the walkthrough, and I was like, hot diggity dog. Look at the double-digit IQ on this guy. I'm doing it. But, yeah, it's a bit tough. It's a little difficult.
Yeah, it can be. I would say, like, play with a walkthrough, try to do some stuff without it, but, like, the moment you start to feel, like, a little frustrated, just look at the guide, because otherwise you're going to end up, like, not enjoying the game. So, no shame. I used to walk through for parts. Stella and I both got super stuck. We were stuck on the very first puzzle.
Yeah, the door.
Not the door is not a puzzle.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. The menu's a little tricky.
We were stuck on the vase with the key in it.
Oh my god.
And that's just down to Michael's stupidity and laziness. Because, like, we knew something was up with this vase.
Oh, you did?
Like, it's so obvious. Because, like, it's different than the other ones. He has something different to say about it. You can open, like, the blinds right next to it to let light in.
Of course.
And we were like, there's something up with this vase. But he refuses to look in the vase unless he finds a photograph in a drawer of a key hanging above this vase. And then he's like, oh, yes. So the key must have fallen into this vase. I now have a reason to do a little bit of work, and I will now look into the vase.
He's an asshole. Michael's an asshole. He's doing it on purpose.
He's the worst. I love him, but
if I knew I was in a video game and my actions were being controlled by somebody else, I guess I too would be incredibly frustrating and obstinate about everything.
You're so bitter. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I could hurt myself. I'm no pyromaniac.
Is there a theme to this game or like a message? Because I'll be honest, when I got through it, the ending kind of like hit me out of nowhere. And so in the aftermath, I was like, why did I just go through all of that? Aside from to talk about it with my good pal. But do you have any takeaways from this game?
Don't colonize other countries and steal their stuff. Or bad things will happen to you. That's the message here. And don't take the little mind.
Also, it's wrong. So
don't do that. Please treat people with respect. Be cool. Don't be British. That's a big theme. I don't know. I think it's kind of just like a straightforward kind of story, and I think maybe in a meta sense you could take away the theme of like this genre still exists and can still be very effective at scaring you, even though it doesn't have like modern controls or graphics. So I think in that way it has a theme, but in terms of story, I think it's pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
And it operates on a lot of tropes of like the author goes crazy in the house, you know, and there's a lot of like homages to stuff.
Yeah, I like that meta take, though, that, like, the genre still exists, because when you you sent me the game, or, I mean, you sent me stuff about the game, and you told me to, like, use a walkthrough. After I'd started it up, I, like, instinctively, or not instinctively, but reflexively, I typed in Scratches 2003, because I was like, this game is so old. Like, it looks old, and I know that, like, the point-and-click genre is old, but it came out in 2006, which isn't a huge leap ahead. But we're only 2 years removed from Dead Space, the second Dead Space mentioned in the episode, by the way.
Yo!
And I was like, wow, this feels like a relic from another time, but it's still graphically impressive enough to where it works. Like, I'm not being pulled out of it so much. So I don't know if I'm a point-and-click guy quite just yet. But this was a interesting, like, dipping my toes in the genre, and I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah.
I think this was an effective story, even if it's a little bare bones, like you said. I was impressed. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's made by people who were very passionate about the genre, even when it was past its prime, and I think you can really feel that. Even if you haven't played a lot of point and clicks, a lot of love went into the project, which is great. I love it. It's very cute. They're while the company went out of business, they went defunct shortly after. But one of the developers went on to make a new studio called Senscape, and they are working on more games in the genre right now, and it looks pretty cool. They got this one they're making called Asylum. Looks pretty spooky. And they also just announced that they're helping to make that Silent Hill Ascension, like, interactive show.
Oh.
So, like, I'm very interested in that. So, like, yeah, one of the guys is still working on and is still very passionate about, like, the horror genre and point and click. So it's pretty neat. It's not dead, you guys. It's not dead. It's not dead. It's
Scratchers unite. Scratchers unite. Scratch that itch. Yeah. It goes hard. I'm gonna get
There's
that
dozens of us.
It's gonna be a t-shirt. I'm gonna make t-shirts.
Legally distinct from the official Scratchers.
I'm inviting them to sue me so that they can get the money. I'll just be holding the money for them.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You know what? You can do it. You know what? You take the money or the ideas so that you can get sued. I think that's a way better idea.
Great. You're like the Michael to my Jerry. I'll commit the fraud.
Yeah. And I'll stumble into a dungeon. Yeah. Who knows what horrors I'll face. Kaden, this has been a pleasure. Do you have anything to plug?
Just the usual. Come on down to Twitch Town and come see my show. Why does it sound like I'm doing stand-up? I'm not.
I've got a special down in Oconomowoc. There.
No, come on down to twitch.tv/KadenCactus and see me play some spooky games and have some laughs. And also, go check out Scratches if you can acquire it by legal means, of course.
Yeah.
And then play their new game when it comes out. Go follow their stuff. I'm not sponsored. I just think it's really cool. They're very passionate about this genre. It's neat. I need more Scratchers.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah. There are presumably dozens of us.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I got.
Sweet. Are you prepared to say the line?
Oh, I'm so ready. Wait, do I say it now? Oh.
Are you ready or are you not ready?
Wait, I'm ready. Okay. NPC. Will you stop laughing during it? This is serious. NPC you later.